How have you been? How's your week?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. So I was down in Cornwall coaching yesterday. So I live in Tenby in Wales. So I had pretty. So I drove down yesterday, drove back late last night, and then I've got some coaching on this afternoon, which is quite good. So no, it's all good.
Yeah,
Nice.
not a bad place to.
How's the coaching going?
Yeah, going well. Yeah, no, it's going well. Pirates are starting back now next Monday. So we went down. I went down the yesterday's, doing a bit of planning with the coaches, sort out their pre-season. Then they start again Monday, and then sort of like doing some bits and bobs up in Wales as well. So I'm at College Cigar this afternoon to coach the college lads there for an hour and a bit. Obviously, there's no rugby being played at the minute, but it's just all about skills and keeping active before they finish for their sort of like summer off.
Yeah.
We didn't really keep up with the championship. How did they get on?
Yeah, went well. So finished third overall, which is good. And we were right in it to the thick of the fight, right towards the end of the season as well against Ealing. So it was like I don't know, if a couple of games had gone our way, we would have sort of like pipped the sort of like top spot. Obviously Ealing, they're coached very well and they've got a great squad in terms of players and stuff, and they managed to win it. But obviously, as you probably know, there's no promotion this year. There was a couple of obviously Donny and Ealing sort of like put in their plans to get promoted, but they got either rejected or they didn't get taken on by the Prem Rugby. So it's all to play for again this year. And I think what the Premiership are trying to do is get that one team in so that there's no bye weeks. Obviously, there's bye weeks this year. So they want that one team to go up next year, so that there's no bye weeks. And there'll be 14 teams in the play for.
Yeah, I think it was because like they didn't have I think they only have 4,000 in their stadium. They want like 10,000 or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then I was like thinking to myself, well, surely they would have put in some plans for sort of like ground sharing. Obviously, London Welsh did that when they came up, and I know other teams have has tried to source that, but whether that didn't go ahead or whether there's some issues that I wasn't sure. So, bit of a shame that nobody went up. In terms of obviously if you win the league, surely it's you should have your right to kind of go up. But I suppose if plans aren't in place, or to be fair, I don't try and get involved with all the sort of those bits and pieces. It's more the on-field coaching I quite like. But at the end of the day, if a team is worthy of going up, then you should go up. But hopefully, hopefully it'll be us next year. But if not, I'm sure Ealing will be right up there again.
Yeah,
it'd be good to see like a different club in the Premiership again, because it's not like boring, but you get to see the same clubs each year. It'd be nice to see a new change to the season.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's all that thing about fresh blood, isn't it? If there's new teams or going into leagues and stuff, it keeps things fresh, keeps it all sort of keeps the game evolving as well. I'm not saying that like obviously the hard thing to do is actually when you get up into Premiership is actually try and stay in the Premiership. And obviously I did that with the Chiefs, and it is hard. But if you get a good group who have got a good mentality and coaches that are really good at directing the way, then you're able to kind of sustain yourself for the Premiership. And I'm sure hopefully whoever does go up this year, hopefully it'll be us, but whoever does go up this year, I'm sure they'll try and do their very best to try and stay in the league and try and make it try and make their fortunes in the Premiership.
Well, you did more than that, right? Didn't you? You won the league, didn't you?
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, no, 2017, the year I was retiring, so it was quite good. Quite a nice way to sort of bow out. It was good. It was it was a gradual rise with the Chiefs and sort of sort of like getting the biggest thing was actually winning the championship to kind of prove your worth in the Prem. And then obviously the hardest thing then is when you get into the Prem, like I just touched upon, is trying to stay in. And then once you've stayed in for a couple of seasons, it's kind of like, well, what's next? And the next is like, right, okay, what's the trophy you can win? And then we went on to win the LV Cup. Obviously, before that, we won we won the A League as well, which obviously is a title in itself. But we won the A League, and then we won the LV Cup, and then we pushed on, for further stuff and won the Premiership in 2017 against Wasps. So yeah, it was a steady rise. It was a good rise. It was a nice rise, and it's just nice to kind of, I suppose, one, go into the Premiership, but then compete with the with the top teams in the Prem, for example, like your Saracens and your Quins and your Northamptons and et cetera, and actually come away with the trophies. You know, that kind of puts the icing on the cake a little bit, and makes kind of like all the hard work and hard yards of training sort of like all worth it, which is good. So and obviously the Chiefs this year, looking back on their season this year, obviously they'll be fairly disappointed. They will be, but the thing is, like, what do they say? What goes up must come down. But like, you are always going to get some form of plateau, and it doesn't mean that they're down and out and they're out of it. Look at Saracens. They're back into a final now, and they could come all the way down to the Championship. And the Exeter aren't down in the Championship. They just haven't made the playoffs. And I'm sure with a bit of rebuilding, a change of environment, probably a little bit, a change of the culture a little bit, maybe a change of obviously what they're doing. They've changed their coaches a little bit as well. Maybe with a bit of rejigging, they can find that form and get back in there for next year. So I'm sure they'll get back on the horse as soon as they can.
100%.
Yeah, it was the thing with Saracens when they went down. Didn't Cornish beat them?
Yes, that's right. So we had that COVID year, and then our season didn't start till January. And obviously the first game that we had was Saracens, and the prep towards the Saracens was good. And I don't know. I think on the day we just got everything right. We were emotionally in a better place. I think maybe on the back end, and to be fair, they did mention it, but I think they just thought, well, we're going to go down to the Monet. We're in the Championship. We're probably going to walk this league. Not say walk this league, and not being like arrogant, but like there is that feeling in the back of your head, as a player. And I know what it's like. Probably at the forefront, you're not thinking that, but in the back of your head, you're like, oh, we'll just go down there, we'll win a game. And to be fair, we put it to him. We played fairly well. We contested with a lot with the high ball. We put them under pressure. Our scrum put them under massive pressure against a fairly star-studded front row in Vincent Koch, and I think he had even admitted that to himself. And lo and behold, one of those props goes off and plays for Worcester. One of our props went off and played for Worcester the year after. So the Championship is a really good base and foundation for actually pushing on to that next level. And like I say, we beat Sarri 26-24, something like that, I think it was. But yeah, and what a great day, and I'm sure it will be remembered for a very long time.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
Well, must be pretty weird to see like Farrell and Bonafola and like in Cornwall, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I mean, I suppose for them, the furthest they come down is Exeter, isn't it? In terms of there, and next minute they're hitting the A30, and they're another 2 hours on, down to the Cornish, down by the Cornish Promenade, and walking out to the Monet. So I think also it does ground you as a rugby player as well to actually come down to those places and play rugby. And I think the hardest thing is trying to figure out actually, the Premiership is, don't get me wrong, it's really hard and it's a tough league, but actually the Championship in itself is a fairly hard league in itself. And, as you've probably seen before, but there's a lot of players in the Championship that have actually gone on and pushed on to, Premiership rugby. So, they talk about this ring fencing around sort of like the Premiership, but, at the end of the day, how are you going to then, promote those players that are, up and coming and worthy of a Premiership shot, but are maybe too young and a bit immature to kind of jump into that professional era, so you've got to, I think you've always got to keep those lines open. I'm not sure what they're going to do in the future, but I think if you close it off, it'll be a travesty for the league. But, like I said, it is a tough league. And, obviously Saracens felt that when they come down to us. But, it'll be an interesting final this weekend as well with Sarries playing Leicester. So,
yeah.
Well, who do you think is going to win that?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I think if you looked at it as a neutral, which I'm trying to do, like I'd say Leicester, because Leicester came top of the league, and once you come top of the league, it's like, well, not say it should be your right to win the league. It would be if you were playing the Premiership football, but like at the end of the day, it's playoffs and it's one game, isn't it? So it is going to be tough. I think Leicester have got the desire to do it, and I think they've got the want to do it. But then on the other side of me, I've also think, well, Saracens have been there and they've won a lot of finals. So I think that will be very. I think it'll be a tough game. I think it's going to be really close. I don't think it's been as open as the finals have been the last few years. But I think it's going to be a real tough one. But I'd like to see Leicester do it. I'm not saying I've got anything against Saracens. I haven't. I would like to see Leicester do it just in terms of their rise and their journey. But let Saracens win it. I've got a very good friend who's a strength conditioner there. You know, I do hope they do it. So I think whoever wins it doesn't really matter.
No.
I think Leicester deserve it, really. They've lost, 6 games in all competitions, and they can't walk away with nothing. That would be the best season, but also the most unsuccessful.
Yeah, 100%. I think it would be hard. It'll be a tough pill to swallow, but I think they definitely could be proud of their journey, 100%. But I think you know, like I said, icing on the cake would be coming away with that Prem trophy. And what I quite liked I was watching on the semi-final, but you had Steve Borthwick up the ladder and he was helping the hookers out. Obviously, because he was in that role of you know, the second row role. But I love the fact that he's head coach, director of rugby, and he's down in the thick of it, and he's staying connected with those players. And for me, that's a really good sign of coaching. A really good sign of coaching that he's connected with those players. And I just think that the journey they've been on this year, it'll be hard and tough for them to come away and not win anything. So I do, in a way, I do hope it. I hope they win it. And also, like, for Ford as well, being such a talisman for so many years, and he's going off to Sale. But I love the fact that he's going off. He's off to another club, but he's, you know, still at the forefront, still at the fight, and he's still got the want to win for that club, which is a great sign of professional rugby, really.
Well, yeah, so are another club that are just like sleeping giants, aren't they? They got such a good squad, but they just can't find. No, they can't get to that extra level, can they?
Yeah, 100%. I think they've got you know, with Sanderson at the helm. I think he's you know, a really good man to take him forward. But yeah, I agree. I think that South African influence has done really well for them. You know, the Dupree brothers coming in doing really well. I think there's a couple of big losses there for this year in terms of the 10 going to Bristol. So I think they're going to have to find their sort of like way a little bit, which will be a really interesting one. But yeah, look, Sale, you know, they're a massive force. You know, it's a tough place to go and play at Sale. And I think, you know, with the drive that Sanderson had with the, you know, Sale sort of like Saracens defence, which is now obviously transferred into what Sale do. You know, obviously you're going to pick up bits and change things or whatever. I think that influence there has made them a really, really tough game tough team to beat. And I can see them sort of like coming back next year and getting there. It's a shame for them because I've got a couple of good mates actually play at Sale at the minute, and you know, one of the lads has just had really bad sort of like injury, or not bad injury, but he's had fair amount of time out with injury. So hopefully they can push on next year. But you know, it just shows you how tough the Premiership is in terms of you know teams that could have done it. If you'd have looked at that table just below the top 4, those teams that could have just made it, it was really, really close. It hasn't been like other years where it's been sort of like, you know, you've sort of your top 2 or top 4 done already, you know.
Yeah, well, Faf's leaving as well. He's gone to Japan, so that's going to be a big loss for them as well.
Yeah,
another loss. Yeah, 100%. But then I do think they've got some really good backup. Obviously, Rafi Quirk, you know, a player for Sale. But I think you know, if those young players can take on what Faf de Klerk has been given in terms of you know, experience, I think they'll be fine. But yeah, it is a big loss. I'm sure. It was quite nice to see their sort of like celebrating their last game, and they ended up picking Faf up and whatever. But he has been that type of player for them, isn't he? He's been a real talisman, somebody that led from the front and sort of like gave a lot of energy to Sale, which is fantastic. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in and around there. And like I say, with the 9-10 leaving, that Access McGinty leaving, it's kind of going to be a tough one. Not say tough one, but you know, there's a little bit of embedding to do there, you know. So but I'm sure they'll be fine. I'm sure they'll be good.
Well, we're both Bristol fans, so
there we go. So you're like that, yes.
Yeah.
Well, not at the moment. We've had a shocking season.
Yeah, not be very good.
What do you think of the Bristol season? Can you put your finger on it? Do you know what's kind of going on? Do you?
I don't know. Well, I haven't got a clue. Different stories are coming out. So I don't really see it as Pat Lamb's fault, to be honest with you, because I think he's been brilliant. Like, came from the Championship. We won a European Cup and everything like that. So I don't think you can fault him really. But
I think it was like the players' mentality. Like, we've just finished the season before. We finished top of the table.
Yeah.
Bottled the playoffs, but that's
another story.
Yeah.
But then, we felt like, we can just do that again, and then just didn't show up.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard, isn't it? I think, and it just shows you what like a league can be like. So, like, just because you know, for example, like your top 4, you finish top that season, or you're into a semi-final, like, you know, Bristol have been. You know, I think sometimes from the outset and the outskirts of the team, you know, naturally you just think, we'll be fine next year, and actually, you know, sometimes it doesn't go like that, does it? You know, whether players haven't gelled, or whether it could be the way that it's being coached, or for example, maybe other teams have just got better. And maybe the coaching sort of like process hasn't been right. Could be a myriad of things, but I think the hardest thing is that it's that expectation, and I think that as players and coaches, you have a certain expectation from people on the outset. The money men, the investors, to kind of like put you back on that, put you back into sort of like let's get back into top 4 and stuff. But there is like a bit like the Chiefs. There's a little bit of transition there. Okay, so we're transition. Okay, we're finishing lower than what we should have expected. But hey, let's right the wrongs now. Let's spend 3 or 4 weeks as a coaching group. Let's get this right. Let's sign the right people. I mean, McGinty and Pat Lam, they work together at Connacht. There's going to be probably some real good connection there. So you never know that that Bristol season next year might look completely different. And it's amazing what a few changes and a few tweaks here and there can actually do with pushing that team forward.
I think the loss of Semi hasn't helped us either, because he's just been injured the most of the season.
Yeah, 100%.
So I mean, really have the players you can't really fill in. If Semi leaves, you can't really put in another player that's like Semi.
I was going to say he's a tough man to kind of to replace, isn't he? He's not going next year, is he? Semi Radradra?
There's like NRL and like rugby league and all that, but
oh really?
I hope not. He's not.
No, I hope not. Is it? Have you lost? Is it Antoine Frisch? Is he gone?
Yeah.
Oh, he was quality. He was
so the last like quarter of the season, he was so good.
Oh, really? No one heard of him.
Playing like Semi.
Yeah. No one heard of him, and then we thought, right, who's this? And then I went down to the Bristol Saracens game at the Tottenham ground, and I was like, who's this? And me and Dad were like, what player he is?
Yeah.
He's off to Munster now, and a couple of players this season, like Fitzharden, like players that weren't really known, they've just put the spotlight on them. Yeah. They've been brilliant.
100%. I think Fitzharden's been really, really good. I love his just his ethic, and his work ethic is outstanding. He's still raw, as you can see. He still makes a fair few mistakes, as anybody's going to be in that position. But I love his outlook of just trying to keep that ball alive for as much as that. Now, that's probably the way that Bristol play, and that's probably embedded into him. But I just love that mentality of trying to keep that ball alive. Now, obviously, it's got to be under control and whatever. Yeah. But I just love the fact that he's gone out there, he's tried it, and to be fair, he's kept Nathan Hughes out for at that side for a while. Yeah. Which is obviously going to be a tough thing to do. So those young players coming through, and it just shows what kind of that academy is doing as well. If that academy, I know I've got a really good mate of mine who is the skills coach for Bristol, Sean Marsden, and he's been doing wonders down there. So I think the fact that they've got that really nice that mentality to kind of like push those players to keep on driving forward, I think is outstanding. Really, really good.
Yeah, Nathan Hughes is another peculiar character.
Well,
he wasn't there at all for the season. He was either injured or just playing terribly. And then last game he scored 2 tries.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Claremont.
Yeah.
He went on to Bath, and
I think
that's when I lost it for him. He's been a good player for us, but if he's going to get Bath, he could go.
I think he's the most inconsistent in the Premiership.
Yeah.
Who's that again? Sorry,
Hughes.
Yeah. I was going to say, just think about it, because is he signed for Bath or is he?
He was on loan, but
okay.
I think he's off to Claremont now, which is pretty mental.
Yeah. Okay. Again, like it's obviously players look to obviously with the England, he was obviously with England for a fair while, wasn't he? Sort of like come out and doesn't sort of like get picked, or Eddie wants to choose somebody else. So it's about finding then okay, where do I want to push my rugby? And for him, he's obviously making some family choices there as well, which is obviously as a professional rugby player, you've got to try and do. And I'm sure, like with the French way of playing, offloading, keep the ball alive, I'm sure he'll thrive in that environment. And like anything, I think sometimes a change of club also gives you that ability to kind of like bring that hunger back, isn't it, within rugby? So hopefully he'll go on and push on. He's been he was hell of a player for Wasps. That's why Bristol obviously signed him. So fantastic for him. But see how he goes.
Yeah. No.
The European competitions were good as well. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Because it was
So what do you think about the so that obviously a European competition now is obviously European competition, and we're bringing in South African teams obviously within the URC. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't really agree with it, to be honest. Like,
it's hard to call it European rugby then, isn't it? I don't know. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because they've changed that league around with that URC. And to be fair, the South African teams have look, they've done really, really well. They've really pushed, and they showed that they're sort of like worthy within sort of like obviously the what was the old Magnus League and Pro 14. It's just a tough one. Let they come where they've come. So they deserve to get into those that top 6 or whatever, or not play the lower level of the European. But it's just like what do you call that competition now? Do you change the name? Do you keep it the same? It's a really tough one. But look, at the end of the day, they've come top of their league. But it is a tough one how you look at that league now. And I don't know if they're going to change it. I don't know what's going to happen. But it's really, really interesting. Really interesting.
I think they will have to change the name.
I think I'd rather them just in the Champions Cup and not the URC.
Yeah.
And they had their own league anyway, didn't they?
They were in Super Rugby, weren't they?
Yeah, Super Rugby. That's it. And they've now put their Super Rugby towards obviously New Zealand teams, Australian teams, and that the Drua and the Man Pacifica, I think it is called. So they've, and to be fair, I've quite enjoyed watching that. A few games there. I think that's been really, really entertaining. Sort of like just one the way that like Fijian Drua are obviously going to play and the Pacifica, and it'd be interesting to see. For me, so like obviously this autumn, you're going to get obviously those players, Pietals. He can now play for Tonga, can't he? So I think when you get those players playing for like, for example, Tonga and stuff and whatever, are those players going to get picked back up into the Super Rugby, the Super 14, Super, what they call it, Super Rugby now, and that franchise. So it'd be interesting to see once they finish their internationals this autumn. Whether they're going to get picked up and going to go and play that Super Rugby, because it's a great brand. They started in that brand before they came into Premiership. Are they going to get picked up and push through? Because it's a fantastic league to go and play in. It's open rugby and against the Canterbury Crusaders and the Blues and the Brumbies, who've done really well this year. So be really, really interesting to watch and see what those players are going to do.
Yeah, Tonga did release their. They did release their squad like a couple of days ago.
They're going to be a threat in the World Cup. They're going to major disruption, at least in the pool.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that too, and I think it's amazing what happens when you bring, say, for example, players from the Premiership now that are now going to get maybe have had played for New Zealand, whatever. For example, like a Pietau who's going to go and then play for Tonga, like exactly the same with the Samoans. But like you bring that into a group of already very good players, but maybe don't have the leadership. Once that leadership gets shifted in, you get you're getting somebody with a different experience. Those teams, those international teams, can just push on. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens, especially now on that eve of that World Cup as well. So it'll be really, really interesting.
I cannot wait for it. I mean, it's like all the pool games, all the fixtures being released. It's like 3 days. Like the first game's like France, New Zealand, then it's like England, Australia the day after. It's just like a whole 3 day.
Yeah,
day out. Israel back as well, which will be
that's going to be interesting. Obviously, there's a little bit of controversy, sort of like obviously touted around about him. I mean, at the end of the day, he's been a hell of a talent in terms of playing rugby. Won't get into it any more than that, but like that's going to be interesting. There's lots of stuff sort of like that's been up in the air around rugby, which is really interesting. But I think especially like I said, everything's going to happen this autumn, and it's on that even that World Cup. That World Cup actually gets really, really exciting. And I think as before, the competition for that World Cup and the places, the spots, the games, it's like anything. You look at what any international playing, game against another international now, like even Italy. Look at Italy when it beating Wales in the Six Nations. Well, can they use that as a bit of momentum, a bit of force for the autumn rugby to then push on into the World Cup? So you're going to get, I think, a lot of tough games coming into that World Cup.
We'd love to see Italy get out their groups, but they are stuck with France and New Zealand. So.
What do you think? Do you reckon it's going to be a non-starter?
I really hope they cause a major upset.
They are
at least get through.
They're getting out of the group. They are.
There we go.
Uruguay and Africa 2 first. France and New Zealand got played for first. So one of them are losing. Like, honestly, Italy, again, I like.
Yeah. With all their games, and then their last game, they've got a bit of momentum. Beat France and New Zealand.
They beat New Zealand as well. No, they'll definitely get out of the group.
That'll be the best World Cup ever.
Yeah, and I think so. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think obviously England, obviously they've got that Barbarians game this weekend. The Barbarians game.
I think so.
So I think they're sort of like on the slow build now to the World Cup, which is going to be interesting. I'd be interested to see what Eddie does. After that World Cup, whether he signs on again. I'm not sure. But I think the way that England have been picked, and sort of like there's been lots of controversy. It's Don Brandt, Sam Simmons, number 8, and all that sort of stuff. I think he's got a few games now to really sort of like embed what he thinks and how he wants to play the game, and then he can push it through to the World Cup. So it'll be interesting to see what England do in the World Cup as well.
Yeah, well, he's brought Danny Kerr back as well for the Barbarians game.
Yeah, I think that's well deserved as well. Like 35 years of age, and I was thinking to myself, well, I mean, I watched him against Saracens, and just those cheat lines he picks up, and it's fantastic. So I think he's well deserved.
I don't know how he doesn't get picked over Ben Youngs, to be honest. Because Ben Youngs, he's a solid player, but he's nothing.
I don't think he should have
nothing exciting.
The amount of practice, should have. But I don't think there was any nines at that time that were really competing. So.
Yeah, I think as well. It's just more. I think experience, isn't it? I think when somebody's been in that hot seat and got experience as. And to be fair, Youngs he is a threat around the breakdown.
Yeah.
His kicking's very good. I think that's again, kind of where England want to play. And I think they were probably choosing that tactic around sort of like more of the, the more running free. And I know obviously, with Kerr coming out against Barbarians, it'll probably be a bit more running rugby, which I think, which would fit Kerr if he does start, or if he comes on. I think that will really fit him really well. And then it'll be up to Eddie then. What he chooses, okay, what's my game plan? How do I want to play? Do I want to play expansive? You've got, I mean, think about those that 9 berth. You got Youngs, you got Kerr, you got Harry Randall, from you boys at Bristol. You got Quirk, who's been there. He scored that try against South Africa. He scored against. So there's quite there's a lot of depth in terms of that 9 position. So yeah, that'd be really interesting as well. So I think there's a lot of things up in the air, but and just like I say, lots of competition. And the thing is, with 9s, it can go on forever. You see Richard Wigglesworth, he's coaching Leicester, but he still is a player coach. So, your 9s with that experience is really well deserved.
It would be interesting to see what Eddie chooses, because over the years it's been very what's it? Because he chooses like different team each game. So, and we never really had going into a game, you don't really know. All right, I know exactly what he's going to choose, but you just don't know.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Squad.
Yeah. And I think that's the exciting thing with Eddie is you don't know what's coming. I think that's the kind of thing. Whereas like with maybe with New Zealand and you're going to get a settled side. Whereas actually with Eddie, like he could probably put in. It's like when he talked about putting Jack Noel on the as a back rower. It's quite interesting and it's quite exciting. I think he would do well as well. But I think that kind of excitement that he brings in terms of you never know what he's going to do. That's really interesting as well.
Yeah, well, I think I watched a video the other day, and it was all about how Eddie Jones has won, or there has, but he hasn't won the World Cup. So I reckon it's coming out.
This year. There you go, it's coming out. We'll get our football shirts and start us again now, shall we?
Well, the football's not doing too well. We lost 4-0 last night, didn't we?
There's no way we're winning.
I didn't watch that. Did we?
Lost 4-0 to Hungary.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting.
I want to say 2023 is coming in.
There you go.
Yeah. Perfect. Did you say you had to leave at 12:30?
Just about 12:30, about 25:02. Yeah.
Okay. So should we do? Okay. So basically, at the end of every episode, we ask who your all-time 15 would be.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And your favourite kit.
Favorite kit.
Yeah, all-time.
Yep. Perfect.
Is that all right?
Yeah. Yep. Perfect. So, what do you want to start? Start with 1 or start with 15?
We normally end with a kit, don't we? So,
go with the 15.
Go with the 15. So my all-star 15. What do you want? Do you want Premiership player or do you just want my
all-time?
No limits.
Okay, no limits. Okay, so my all-time 15. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one.
It would have to be a 15 because we haven't the first 2 episodes. None of them have actually been 15.
No.
Oh, really?
No, the first one with Dallin, he did a back line and then a 7s team.
And then we had the 7s. Like Nia Tapper, the 7s.
Well, she did a women's sevens team.
And she picked herself, didn't she?
Yeah, she put herself on the wing.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Who's got money to
Yeah. So you've got no limits in terms of how many players you want. Let alone...
Okay, lovely, perfect. So my all-time 15. So at fullback would be Jack Knoll.
Okay.
Yeah, I put Jack Knoll at fullback. Yeah, 100%. On the wing, right wing would be Charlie Sharples.
Okay,
nice.
Yeah, absolute wheels. Good player, very good player. Had a lot of bouts with him over the years. That was really good. My 11, so as an all-time 15 would be, it's got to be Rokothoko.
Yeah.
Rokothoko. Yeah, 100% Rokothoko. I'd have Martin Nonu at 12.
Yeah.
And then I'd have Alain Rougerie at 13.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alain Rougerie at 13. 10, all-time 10.
It's always the hardest one.
I know, it's a tough one. I'm going to go completely out there. I'm going to go with Stephen Larkham.
Oh, wow.
Australia. Yeah, 100%. I'm going to go with Larkham. And then thinking about how that 9 and 10 access needs to go, I'm going to go with another Aussie. I'm going to go with George Gregan.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's my backline sorted. Yeah, I must. Obviously, Charlie Sharples is retired now, but I'm sure he'd have loved to have played with that backline. So have I. So number 8. Let's go all-time number 8. All-time number 8. Number 8, I would go for. I've got to go for him. Thomas Waldron. Waldron at 8. Yeah. I would go with. I'm going to go with Jerry Collins at 6.
Nice.
And then I'm going to push. Again, completely out there. He's not really a 7, but I just wanted that ball carrier, ball player, Sergio Parise.
Oh, nice.
So he's always the best pick.
Yeah. You can't got to have an Italian in there, haven't you?
100%. There we go. Pick the Italian. I'm going to go with. Who am I going to go with? I know. I'm going to go with John Eales at 5, and I'm going to give him kicking duty over Stephen Larkham.
Of course.
So John Eales will kick. Number 4, Brodie Retallick.
Yeah.
From New Zealand. Yeah. Props, front row. So we're going to go with Old England head. We're going to go with 2, actually. We're going to go with Phil Vickery.
Yeah.
And we're going to go with Jason Leonard.
Yeah.
And for my hooker, rapid, I'm going to go with Dane Coles.
No, that is a quality. That's a class team. Bit rogue.
Yeah, very rogue. Different ages, but we'll go with it. And then my favourite kit.
Yeah.
My favourite kit. It's a tough one, that. Do you know what? I'm going to go with the Stade Francais. You remember when they had that pink kit?
No.
I'm doing it. Do you know? I would have said Chiefs pink kit, but I'm going to go with the original. I'm going to go with Stade Francais.
No. I can't believe
Will hates that one.
I can't believe it.
Can you imagine that full? What I said, that 15. Could you imagine that in that pink kit?
We'll try and edit onto it, won't we?
Yeah.
No, that's outrageous.
That is
completely. Hey, look, that top. That's nearly pink.
Oh, yeah,
that's more orange.
Bit really orange.
Yeah, I'm going to go with pink kit. I'm going to sit with pink kit. Nice.
Hey, like it. Well, Matt, thank you so much.
Mate, no worries. So you guys, so this podcast and stuff, is this what you've been doing, sort of like in your spare time, or?
It started off as a college project, but then we just do it anyway because it's a good laugh.
Fantastic.
It's been done all right recently.
Yeah,
but
it's good. Well, mate, if you need any like people to like interview, whatever, just drop me a note on Twitter, or whatever, and I'll put some people towards your way.
Extra voice hog or something like that.
100% Knowlesy. I'll get you Knowlesy. Yeah, no problem.
Get in.
No problem. Yeah, let me know who you fancy, and I'll chuck them a message for you. Yeah, easy.
Cheers, Matt.
No worries. Boys, have a good day. Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.